called just a woman. So that's one reason. There are other ways in which the woman term is used symbolically and prophetically, and that's what we're doing here tonight. We're looking at prophecy. So prophetically speaking, a woman is used in a positive way as a symbol of Israel. For example, you have the woman in, let's see, Isaiah 54:6, Jeremiah 6:2, or Revelation 12:1. These are good women. I have likened Israel to a comely and delicate woman. This is Israel in a righteous state. But there's also Israel in a backslidden state, and this is also symbolized by a woman. For example, in Lamentations 1:17, Ezekiel 16:30, or Hosea 3:1, where, for example, we have the prostitute Gomer as a symbol of backslidden Israel. Then finally, we have the famous woman, probably the most famous wicked woman in the Bible, which is the mystery Babylon in Revelation 17, the woman who is riding the beast. So it doesn't seem to me as though there's any prophetic justification for this woman being, in fact, the church. Now, what about the meal? Well, what is meal? Meal is ground up wheat, okay? What is wheat, symbolically? Well, happily, Jesus tells us that in this very chapter. He says, wheat is the children of the kingdom. See verses 25 through 30 and verse 38 of chapter 13. So we are the children of the kingdom. What's this ground up business? Well, think about it. How many of you ever seen actual wheat berries right off the branch, right off the stalk? I mean, they're kind of like tiny popcorn. You can't eat them. You can put them in a jar of water and soak them and get them to sprout, or you can grind them up and make flour, but you just can't eat wheat berries. They're utterly useless. And that's how we are. When we get born again, that we're not much use to Jesus. We have to be ground up and broken and made suitable to the Master's service. Amen? That is the key here. So we are talking about the children of the kingdom. Now, what does it say? It says that this is divided up into 3 measures of meal, and then the leaven is put in each measure. So we got a division. Now, if you look back at the history of Christendom, basically you've got 3 major divisions of Christianity. You've got the Roman Catholic Church, the Orthodox churches, and the Protestant church. Pretty clear. Now, if you think about it, the Roman Catholic Church has a lot of leaven in it, obviously. I mean, they've got idols, they've got doctrinal problems, they've got all sorts of weirdness going on, purgatory, rosaries, things like that. Unfortunately, the Orthodox Church is not much better. They've got a little improvement, but not much. But then we've got the third one, the Protestant. What is the leaven in the Protestant churches? Well, I think we're going to find very readily that the leaven there is Freemasonry, in point of fact. Let's look at this. Down through the years, there's been a fundamental symbol that is part of the occult. It's part of Freemasonry, and it's from a philosophy called the Kabbalah. Now, what, you may ask, is the Kabbalah? Well, it's an occult system of Jewish mysticism and magic that dates back to just before the time of Christ, in the intertestamental period, between the time that Malachi wrote his book and the time that John the Baptist began his ministry. Now, the Kabbalah, we are told, is the philosophical core of Freemasonry. It is the ground philosophy behind Freemasonry. And this is its most central and its most important symbol. You will notice here we've got 3 pillars: the pillar of severity, the pillar of equilibrium, and the pillar of mercy. Now, the pillar of severity in Hebrew is called the Ima pillar. The pillar of mercy is called the Abba pillar. Now, you all probably know what Abba means in Hebrew. It means father. But Ima means mother. So this is the mother pillar and the father pillar. Now, this symbol is very rich in its many, many layers of meaning. I could spend a whole evening just talking about all the different ways in which it is interpreted. But for now, we're going to look at it chronologically as a kind of a game plan for Satan's work down through the centuries. And we see here, for example, the pillar of mercy, the father pillar. What did Jesus call the Judaism of his day? He called it the traditions of the fathers. We today, even Bible scholars, in both Judaism and Christianity, will talk about the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's a patriarchal tradition. And so what we have here, this is the father or the patriarchal pillar. It represents apostate Judaism, because we all understand that when the Jews ultimately turned their back on the message of Christ, in Acts 7, when they stoned Stephen, what that ended up with is the light spiritually went out of Israel as a nation, and Jews had to start getting saved the same way Gentiles did, one at a time. And God is not by any means finished with the Jewish people, but right now they need to get saved just like everybody else does, by the blood and the cross of Jesus Christ. They need to receive him as Messiah. Now, on the other hand, here's the mother pillar. What ecclesiastical institution calls itself the mother? Holy Mother of the Church, the Roman Catholic Church. Isn't that right? So we've got here apostate Catholicism on the other side. Now, you've got a female and a male, and they come together in the center. The pillar of equilibrium is obviously the balancing factor. And this balancing factor is the fact that these two other pillars bring together an androgynous figure, a figure that is both male and female. And what that is basically witchcraft and or Freemasonry. Because both witchcraft and Freemasonry have a bipolar god. They have a god that is male and female. That's why, for example, the Masons have the square and compass. It represents the god and the goddess, the male and female reproductive plumbing. If you want to see this broken down in a more complex way, that's pretty complex. This is just since the 1800s. As you can see, Satan has been a busy little boy in the last few years. And he's gotten a lot of stuff, but you'll notice the main trunk of the tree is still Babylonian witchcraft, which is really the same thing as Masonry. And if you don't, I don't have time to document that in great detail, but if you go and look in my book, Masonry Beyond the Light, I go into that in a lot of depth. So this is what has happened down through the years, right up to the present day. And I was involved in about 3/4 of these little arrows that you see, and I can tell you quite categorically, it is all part of the same tree. Now, I don't expect to have the time to go into all of this, so I'm going to break this down and make it simpler for you. And we're going to talk about the path of Masonry's royal secret down through the centuries. Now, some of you may recall that on that certificate I had from the Scottish Rite, I had this wonderful title, Sublime Prince of the Royal Secret. And what does that mean? Well, the funny thing is, if you go up to a Mason and you ask a given Mason who's a 32nd degree Mason, what's the royal secret? You know what they're going to say? I don't know. I even asked them this. I was myself a 32nd degree Mason, and they knew it. So it wasn't like they were trying to keep something from someone who wasn't worthy of this honor to know this. And I said, what's the royal secret? And they'd say, I don't have a clue. I don't know. Well, tonight, you're going to find out. You're going to learn something that only 1 in 100 Masons knows anything about. And it's a horrible secret. It's a disgusting secret. There's nothing royal about it. But it's why it is kept so carefully guarded within the Masonic hierarchy. Let's look at this. We've talked about some of this already, and so I'm just going to kind of skip over it. We got the Babylonian and Egyptian mystery cults. That's where it all began with Nimrod. Then we have the Kabbalistic religions. I talked about that, the Kabbalah. Then we have the Gnostics. The Gnostics are basically people who believe that you are saved by secret knowledge, to put it simply. Gnosticism, it comes from the Greek word gnosis, which means knowledge, like diagnosis or prognosis. And what they believed is that Christianity, as it is constituted in the Bible, is far too simple. It's a Greek heresy off of the truth of Christianity. And what it means is that you have to go through all sorts of elaborate rituals and details and deal with archons and aeons and logos and all these different things in order to receive salvation. Modern day Gnostics would be examples, for example, the Mormons, the Masons, a lot of New Agers. All these people believe they're saved by acquiring some sort of arcane, hidden wisdom.